Welcome back to Hike, Heal, and Hustle, the podcast where we move our bodies, heal our hearts, and build legacies rooted in truth. I'm your host, Randi Black. Today is one of the most personal ones I've recorded this year. It's about faith, or the lack of it. After leaving the religion I was raised in, I found myself in a life where I no longer believed in the way I was taught to or in the way people expected me to, not even in people themselves. This episode is about naming that reality and finding meaning without needing belief to hold it all together. Before we dive in, take a breath. Whether you're walking, driving, or just sitting with this episode, know you're in a space where honesty is honored and complexity is welcomed. Have you ever felt like your entire world was built on something you no longer believed in? Well, that's where I found myself standing in rubble, trying to rebuild. For those who don't know, I grew up in a highly controlled religious group. Excuse me. It shaped everything: how I saw myself, how I spent my time, who I was allowed to love, and how I raised my children. But when I was disfellowshipped, it was as if, excuse me, I was dropped onto planet Earth. I was exiled from a community, a family, a way of life. Suddenly, I was an outsider, a person who at one time belonged, now erased. I expected the silence, I expected rejection, but I didn't fully realize that belief had been the glue that was holding these relationships together. And once it was gone, so were they. This thing it wasn't just about me though. I was also a mother of two elementary age children. Being a single mother is hard enough without the weight of judgment and being exiled, the whispers. And I was concerned how this would affect my children. I was trying to navigate school and bills while also trying to figure out who I was outside of the only framework I had ever known. Losing belief wasn't just about theology, it was about losing the language I used to define myself. I didn't know who I was without those labels, the rituals, the rules. And that kind of identity collapse is terrifying. I started asking myself, what do I actually believe in? Do I believe in anything at all? Being cut off from your community takes a toll that's hard to explain. It's not just rejection, it's silence. Friends stop calling. Family looked through me as if I wasn't there. Places that once felt familiar felt hostile. And I had to wrestle with the questions: am I still worthy? Am I still loved? Do I even exist if my community refuses to acknowledge me? And it forced me into this wilderness of my own soul. I had to start listening to a new voice, my voice. For a long time, and probably still, I carried shame. I still sometimes replay my mistakes. I question if I'm broken beyond repair. I know logically that with time, then and now, that being exiled doesn't mean the end of my life, my story. It's just the beginning. And I used to think that faith was only possible and necessary within the walls of doctrine. Spirituality requires rules, rituals, and in my case, an organizational approval. But outside those walls, I found something different and honestly, something truer. So here we go. Here's my truth. I don't have faith in anybody, anyone, not in God, not in people, not in systems. Now, I recall when my faith began to wane. It was around 2008-9 during the Great Recession, which I looked it up, was documented it started in 2006 and extended to 2011. For me, it extended well beyond 2011. But anyway, back there in 2008, I had been laid off from work and I was wondering how we'd make it through the weeks. Literally, how are we going to make it through the week? And although I had reached out to an elder in my congregational book study group for assistance, that never happened. There was no divine intervention that showed up. But I did. I made calls. I found resources and I kept going. That was real. That was enough. Then I might sound heavy. It may sound tragic. It may sound ridiculous to some of you. But guess what? For me, it was freeing. I lived through broken promises, religious manipulation, and family disappointments. And the conclusion I have come to is simple. I cannot build my life on faith that others will show up, keep their word, or even understand me. I'm not angry at belief itself. I'm just no longer willing to outsource my safety, my sanity, or my life to it. Instead, I lean on facts, choices, and the evidence of my own experience. I lean on myself because at the end of the day, faith did not feed my children. Faith did not pay the rent when we were homeless. Faith did not protect me from the words of relatives who were trying to rewrite my life story. What carried me through wasn't faith. It was resilience. Without faith, my life looks different. I don't pray. I plan. And I don't wait for some miracle. I work. I don't believe people will change just because they say they will. I watch how they move. Relationships look different now. So I don't assume closeness just because we share blood or history. I look for reciprocity, for accountability, for truth. And when those things don't show up, I'll walk away. No guilt. Now, not having faith does not make me bitter. It makes me sharper. It keeps me grounded in what's real, not what's hoped for. It also makes me intentional about the spaces and relationships that I allow, because I'm not leaning on trust. I'm leaning on truth. And if you're listening and you left a religious group, or if you're still in it, but your spirit is restless, please know, walking away from what no longer serves you, it's not a weakness. It's courage. It's choosing truth over comfort. It's saying, my life is mine to live. It can be lonely, I will admit, but the loneliness won't last forever. You know what? You're going to find your circle. You're going to find new circles. I have several new circles. And you're going to build a new identity. And you get to define your own moral compass. You get to choose what matters. And you don't need a deity or a doctrine to do that. For anyone who's lost their faith, whether it's in religion or people or in life's promises, you're not wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. You studied, you believed, and now you don't. Sometimes refusing to believe is the most honest thing you can do. Let's move into some affirmations. As usual, you're going to take a good inhale. Just hold it for as long as you feel comfortable, and then just exhale. And here's the affirmation of the week. I am whole without faith. I am enough with truth alone. I am whole without faith. I am enough with truth alone. I am whole without faith. I am enough with truth alone. Those of you who like to journal, I do have a journal prompt for you. Where have I been relying on faith to fill a gap? And what would it look like to replace it with truth, action, or boundaries? If this stirs something in you, sit with it. Journal, talk to somebody you trust, or just let it be. Well, that is today's episode. Thank you for walking through this honesty with me. If it resonates, share it with someone who's navigating their own shift. And as always, keep hiking, keep healing, keep hustling with heart.